talkers, but they will do. Some of them, they don't talk, but they listen well. Very good. I like that. We're going to come to it. One more. Their family life, the family structure, very important. And I want you online, for my Zoom participants, can you put in the chat any other category we need to pay attention to when we're talking about knowing our learners? So, anything else? Their behavior, somebody, it will be covered in the conduct. Their weaknesses and their strengths. Want you to make a note of that. Attention span. Their attention span. Very good. All right, I see somebody in the chat. Their learning style. Their learning style. Very critical. Now, what do we do with all this information? I want you to think of one student in your class, and you may go ahead and use another name if you do not want to disclose. Just use a name for that student. And I want you to fill in the information, the age of that student. You may approximate if you don't know. The stage, the ability, just do a quick note of that. That particular student in your class. I want you to think of that one. Put a name to it. Put a name to it. Think of it. Put a name. But you're thinking about that particular student. So when it comes on to the children, in order to teach effectively, one area we need to pay attention to is knowing our children. What difference does it make when we know our children? As parents, as mothers and fathers, what difference does it make? Sometimes we have 3 children, 4 children in the home, but they're all very different. But what difference does it make? What does it tell us as teachers? It tells us how to prepare our lessons. Boy, you ever go to a store and you see some dresses, ladies, and it says one size fits all, but somehow when you put it on, it doesn't fit you. So when we are aware of the differences which cause our children to be all unique, it allows us to understand that when we're preparing, like you said, what's your name? Sister Clunis. She mentioned that we need to bring that into our preparation of lessons. So it's important that we know. Now, for your child that you have identified, or your student, if you're teaching an adult class, for your student that you have identified, think about it. The age, the stage, the ability. If you have somebody who may not be able to read well or fluent, would you ask that person to read? Right. So when you know your students, you know how to approach each student so they feel comfortable, accepted, they will be open to communicate or relate in class because we know them. So that's very important. If you are doing a test, that is the assessment at the end of the quarter, if you do that for your Sunday school, you know how to approach it because you know each student and you know their ability. Right? So it's very important that we know our children. So we need to know the age, the background, the learning style, gender, the culture. All of that is important when we are planning for Sunday school. Now, I am from a different area. I'm from St. Anne, right? And I'm from Bonham Spring, to be exact, in St. Anne. And my group that I teach is in St. Anne. And as much as possible, our culture is so varied in Jamaica, because we establish our own culture in our homes, then the community has another subculture, then there's another one in the school, and it's wholly a mix-up of culture. So as I speak, you know what would apply to your children because you are in a different area. We have a culture in Jamaica that is overarching, but at the same time, there are other little subcultures. Even in our churches, you know, there are different subcultures in our churches. So we would need to know our children. So to be effective, we know our children. There's another thing that we need to know about our children. We need to know their needs. The needs of our children. Remember when Jesus was on earth and he taught and he preached and he taught, when he had the multitudes with him, after he was finished teaching, he realized that another need popping up, and that is the need for food. So what Jesus did was to move to satisfy the need. But we're going to move on to that. But need should also be one. So when we look at the profile of our children, what we do then is we would tailor our lessons to match the profile. So you have some, you may say, okay, these three, they will always sing. But you would ask them to maybe do the singing. But guess what? There are others that you want to get out of the shyness. So you might ask them, say, okay, they may not want to sing, but will you read the lesson for me? Because they need to be a part too. And if you realize that they are not participating or you feel that they're not getting it, you make a call to them. And as you make that call, you will discover, you know, what do you do at school? Miss, when I'm at school, I help the teacher to project. Say, so that's an area. What do you normally, you help mommy around the home? Yes, I help mommy to arrange the home. I always help her to make the bed. They say, then that means when we're having online classes, you can arrange some things for me. So you, right there, you're pulling the child out, but you're starting with the child's strength. And I got that, the strengths and the weaknesses. So we will address the weaknesses, but we'll capitalize on the strengths and then help to pull them out of the weaknesses that they have. So the focus is on the strength. And by focusing on the strength, we also target the weak areas that they may have. So it's very important to know them. The learning styles. I must go into that a little because we're talking about teaching, right? I'm not going to go in depth, but we need to know a little about the learning styles. We have the visual learners, right? So if I do a presentation and I ask you, in that presentation, I ask persons may say, I heard. Some persons may say, I've seen, right? Because we have different learning styles. So the visual learner, who can tell me? I want you to put in the chat for the Zoom viewers, what do you think would be some of the habits of the auditory learner, the learner who hears more than they will see, the learner who learns by hearing? I want you to put that in the chat for my viewers, but in the chapel now, I would want you to tell me some of the ways the visual learner will learn and how you can cater to the visual learner. Let me hear. How can you cater to the student who learns by seeing? Pictures. Thank you. Anything else? Charts. Very good. Anything else? Storybooks. Very good. You project the Bible verse. Right. The stories from the Bible. So you show them the pictures and you project the memory verse for them. Because when you do that, they will be able to learn. I tell you, I'm a visual learner. And when I was in high school, when I studied and I go in exam, I could see the words on the pages, of my notebook. And I even know the last word before you turn the page to the other page of the notebook. And if you give me your telephone number and I see it, quite likely I can recall it. Now, some of my brain cells have died or gotten lazy because I'm going up in age. But I learn by seeing. And similarly, our students, some of them will learn by seeing. So we use the pictures and the video and we project the Bible verse, right? And we have the illustrations. And if we have a touch screen, we can draw on the screen for them in order for them to learn. Now, I know the next session is going to take in the technical part. So I'm telling you, sis, when you go in the technical part, we're going to ask the presenter there to assist you to be able to do some of these things. But you can draw on the screen. All right? We're moving on now to the auditory learner. And I'm going into the chat because I asked my Zoom. Okay, so here we're talking about audio books. Thank you very much, Sister Nevers. Is it okay for me to have some others putting in the chat? What do you think would be nice for the auditory learner? The learner that's here is by seeing, by hearing, right? So you may have audio books, right? And when you read the story, they will remember the story. So in addition to just putting the pictures up, you are going to describe the picture for them. So they will hear, all right? And that's for like the kindergarten or the middle or the primary. For the Sunday school, that may be a little bit more advanced in age, like the youths and also the adults. We could also ask them to describe the picture. So when they do that, others will hear. The auditory learners will hear and it will connect with them. All right? And sometimes, you know, while we're having Sunday school online, you know, sometimes persons may be catching up on some little duties. They hear very well. We do it for their benefit too. Not supposed to, you know, but it happens, don't? They may be catching up on some little duties while they're in Sunday school. But you do that because you want to cater for the auditory learner. So we don't just come with images and then we want to expect everyone to learn because different persons have different learning styles. Now, another learning style, what is it? What's the last one? The tactile. Feel it. I want to do. I want to act. So for the learners that are more the tactile learner, because that's the dominant style. So sometimes they will learn from the other avenues or approaches, but the main one for them is the dominant one, the tactile. They really want to see it. So guess what? While you're doing your Zoom Sunday school, you can ask them to act. So next week, you're going to have a story. Ask them to take the hat. Ask them to take the tie to dress up like pastor. Ask them to wear the jacket. And ask them to position their camera once it's possible. And so they will act. They will act a particular part. So that's the tactile learner. Also, if we're talking about fish and bread, and they have a Play-Doh at home, ask them to come with the Play-Doh and ask them to make a bread from it and show it to the others in the class. Ask them to do a fish and ask them to show it to the others in the class. And from those two learning aids, you can teach your lesson. So when you're talking about the fish and bread, you're gonna ask them, show your fish, Johnny, and he will show the fish that he made. Because guess what? He wants to do it and feel it in order to learn it, right? For the adults now, how could we reach them, the adults and the youths, when we're talking about the tactile learner? Any ideas from my Zoom viewers? And let me get two from the chapel. The tactile learner, the learner who wants to feel in order to do, they want in order to learn, they want to act, they want to do in order to learn. They could do some drama as adults. Thank you. They could express themselves. Very good. Now, because when they also do, because they are speaking, so you could ask them to, you could ask one of them to actually teach the first part of the lesson. They are doing, so they will remember when they do. All right, so those are some of the things that we can do, the strategies we use when we are teaching. Now for your journey that you have on your paper, your student, I want you to make a note of some of the activities that you would do based on the kind of learner you think they are. So I'm giving you just a minute to do that. Make a note of some of the things that you would do for that student that you have identified on your paper. Make a note of some of the things that you would do based on his or her learning style. Because you would have been teaching them for some time. Sometimes you see when you're teaching them, especially children, they're jumping a lot. Sometimes they do that. Or if you're talking about praising or singing, you find that they are jumping and praising. They do. How do you reach them? I want you to write that down. I'm giving you a minute to do that. Also, while you are on Zoom, please go ahead for that student that you have identified in your class. I want you to put that student's learning style based on what we have discussed and some activities that would reach the students. So we have gone through them, so it's just identify the learning style. All right, so we are moving on. Now, what is your learning style? What is your learning style? What is your learning style, sister? May I have your name, please? What's your learning style? How you think you learn? When you do it, when you hear it, when you see it? Or seeing than hearing. Wonderful. Anybody else? What's your learning style? Right. Which one is dominant though? Usually it is said that there's a dominant one, the do, right? Because we do adopt different learning style. Because when we are in school, we were introduced maybe to just maybe one in our time. We didn't have any videos and all of that in the classroom. We just would hear the teacher, but then we would need to adapt. But the most effective one is the one that is dominant. So yours is a do, yes? Do, right. Mhm. Beautiful. Yes. You learn visually. Right, because what you just said was very important. And even in my research, I realized that just as you mentioned, let me share again for the benefit of the Zoom viewers. persons will spell the word like you said, Sister Kulis, and you don't get it. But once you see it, you are quite okay. Right. So you know definitely that that's the most effective style for you. We need to know our children and our students' learning style. And when we know that, we can be more effective. Now that we're talking about the pandemic, and the opportunities that we have to preach and teach the word, it's important that we know their learning style. All right, moving on. So I have these, let me see if I'm connected. I'm gonna try to see if I can, it will take me there. Oh, but you're not gonna see it, but my viewers online will see it. I was hoping I would be able to do this. I'm gonna send the link to Sister Robbie. I'm going to send all the links. And do you have a Sunday school WhatsApp group, a general Sunday school WhatsApp group? Right, she would send it in the WhatsApp group for you. And in your own time, you can look at it. And it will tell you, go into a little bit more detail with the learning styles. All right? So let me go back. I'm just getting back to where I was. All right? Now, the needs of the learner is very important. The needs of the learner is very important. Okay, so yes, it did come up after all, right? So I did that. I think that might have been the one what I did for myself. But I was testing it. So I just put in random answers and it gave a score, and the metrics is this person would have been 35% auditory, 40% visual, and 25% tactile. So the visual would be dominant. All right. I'm sure if we, because I just go ahead and plug them in. But if we had done it, it would have been more dominant, right? One learning style would have been far exceeding the others. All right. So that is the link, and it tells you if you're a visual learner, you learn by reading, see pictures, and you understand picture. Once you can picture what you are learning in your head, you know, some person will say, all right, let me get a mental picture, right? That sort of thing. And all the styles, see, he's going down all the styles, and how you can help use that, capitalize on it to help you when you're teaching your Sunday school. All right. So we're going to be moving on to the next slide, and it's needs-based or needs-focused teaching. What is the common need for all of us? What's the common need, Zoom viewers? What is the common need for everybody? The universal, the one that is safe, the common need. The common need is love. That's a good start. And who does it come from? God. So the common need as Christians, we know, is the need for salvation. That's a common need. So it's safe to assume that everyone needs salvation because everyone really needs it, right? So that's the common need. So needs-focused teaching is also very important. In order to be an effective and efficient Sunday school teacher, so not just doing the right thing, but doing the thing right, we need to know the needs of our students. So the needs will vary, right? And we ask God now, and that is why we say it's a GCT approach. God is in it from the start to the end. We ask Him for wisdom, because sometimes when we are teaching the adults, when we're teaching the kindergartens, when we're teaching the youths, there is an underlying physical need or emotional need. And that's why Jesus did not stop at just teaching the multitude, but at that time he fed them. The Bible tells us that They never had enough that the little boy could provide with the fish and bread. So Jesus prayed and it was multiplied. And it was not just hundreds, it was thousands. Because the needs are there. Now, what are some of the needs as we go through the COVID-19 pandemic? What are some of the physical needs? Physical needs. What are some of the physical needs? And we can relate to ourselves. Sometimes I work from home, and sometimes when I'm at home, I'm just ready to go on the road. Because the space at home is good. But guess what? I just need to go breeze out. And I will say to the children, come, let's go. And we drive around the community. We look at houses. I love to look at houses. They love to look at houses. We look at houses. We look at their colors. We look at everything that we see on the road. And then I go back home. Because I know what the pandemic does to me after a while when I'm at home for a long period of time. I just want to breeze out. So we don't get out of the vehicle. We just drive and then we head back home. All right. But what are some of the needs? Because we're talking about effective teaching while we go through the pandemic. What are some of the needs? The physical needs we're starting with. So we know the common need is salvation. That's a given. Right? What are some of the physical needs of our students, adult class? What are some of the physical needs? Just a minute, let me acknowledge her and then I'll come. Go ahead. Right, the need to socialize. The need to socialize. Thank you. So there's a very good. You were going to say something, Suzette? Food, right. Food. Need? That is a very good observation. Very good observation. So for the sake of the Zoom viewers, so we talked about the social needs, we talk about the financial needs, we talk about the need for food, and we talk about the need to rest. The need to rest. Good observations. And we normally overlook that, you know. We normally overlook that. The rest parts normally overlook it. Because once our body is pulling us, we think we're okay. But once we sit before the screen, we want to sleep, like you mentioned in Sunday school. So that's a need. So while we are teaching, how could we talk about rest while we are teaching? Jesus Christ rested. He was in the bottom of the boat, sleeping. So we will say to our little ones, why are you sleeping? You're not staying up. Are you tired, miss? I went to my bed late last night. I said, guess what? You know, we're talking about Jesus, and Jesus used to rest, you know. So even though Jesus was completely God, but he was on earth as the Son of Man, and he rested. Did you know that he fell asleep in the bottom of a boat? Because he needed to rest. So I like that. Because we have to also address the physical needs of our student. Because if that person sleeps, that adults sometimes too don't rest. So once we sit in church, the nodding starts. You know, it happens. We have the early morning prayer meeting on Zoom, and when we get up, we're still on the Zoom meeting. The prayer meeting done a long time and everybody gone. Right? So we see that we need the rest too. So even when our adult learners, we have to look out for the physical needs. We may not be able to satisfy all of them, but what we cannot satisfy, we support them. Sometimes we support through prayer, through advice, right? Because when we talk about the physical or the financial needs, sometimes as a church, we have a little program where we distribute some bags of grocery and so on, but we may not be able to do it every week, right? But when we hear a little bit more about the financial needs, we can give a little advice. We could say to them, you know, how are the bills paid? So on and so on and so. Do you think you could probably not do this, but do this because this is more important? How you think that would help you? So through advice and support. And then when we finish, we of course we ask, let us pray. We will pray to God for opportunities to satisfy those needs. But being aware of somebody's need works. I remember when we had, we normally have our Sunday school treats every year. And with the COVID pandemic, we realized we would not be able to have the treat. We tried, you know, but the cases were going up and so on in our area. And, you know, when we had our meeting, the Lord spoke to us and said, let's visit the children. We haven't seen them, we only see them on Zoom. And we packaged the ice cream in a cover cup and we packaged the cake. And we walked as Sunday school teachers and other youths from house to house, and we drive to a portion of the road, had on our mask and so on, and we called them out and we gave it to them. And one person said to me, Sister Andy, that was so effective. The children felt the care and the love. So the physical needs, you know, are addressed. Some children need tablets. Some children need tablets. Some children may need a little data to come on the WhatsApp Sunday school just for the Sunday. We can't do all, but as much as lies in us. And what we cannot do, we find other ways, right? So even for the Sunday school class teaching on Zoom, what can be done for those who we do not reach on Zoom? We print the lessons and we distribute them. Or if they're not on a particular Sunday, we send it via WhatsApp, a lesson via WhatsApp, and we ask them to answer some questions and to send them back to us so we know they're doing the work. So we're talking about meeting the needs. The emotional needs now, you mentioned love, affection, sometimes the children, attention. Sometimes the children, you can't control them because they need attention, some of them. So we're not diagnosing because we're not professionals now in the medical, but once we try, we ask God for wisdom and say, okay, this person, you know, keeps disturbing the class. Let this person keeps disturbing the Zoom class. Let me ask this person to change the slides for me. So that person will be attentive because they want you to call them out. So be aware of the needs. Ask them to repeat the memory verse. Very good. I'm moving along because I realize that time is going. Go ahead. Right. So we meet the needs in the pandemic. The need for education. Like I said, some persons don't have tablets. I mean, Sunday school students always attending, but do have a tablet. Can we put $2,000 together and buy a $10,000 tablet for that child? Is it any at all possible? Can't do it for everybody, but sometimes God pick out someone. Yes, right, it can be done. Sometimes there's a child in the community and every time you pass them something just really prick you. And when you pass them again, something prick you again. And when you pass them again, it pricks you, but when you pass every child, it doesn't. So, God is saying something, right? Go ahead, Sister Clunis. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Right, right. I love that. Very good. Meeting the need. I love that. So I'm going to repeat it for the Zoom viewers. So what Sister Clunis does in her adult Sunday school, she collects $100 every week and she uses it to put towards a project, maybe to buy a phone for somebody who is not able to join because they don't have a phone. Right. food stuff you take to the person. So what I said when the pandemic came on, I said no child should be left behind. No student should be left behind. Reach them and teach them in whatever way we can. That's a good example. And persons who are on Zoom, if you're from a different church, it's okay for you to make notes because we're sharing our best practices. All right. Good day, Door Faith Church of God is here. Okay, well, welcome. Happy to have you. All right, now we're moving on from the needs. So know the needs. So please make a note of the need that you think may exist with that child that you have identified on your paper. All right, the next thing we're going to look at is to do a lesson. But I'm going to skip over that for a little while. And let me see. All right, I have some ideas. So move on to the next one, please. That's the one that says activities, please. So we have, right, you're there. So for auditory, look at music, sounds. So you're doing a Sunday school lesson with a video, or you're telling the story. And when you're telling the story, you know, and all of a sudden the children hear, you're talking about a rumble. And all of a sudden you start playing a rumble and the children hear that rumbling and they say, Miss, what is that? Because you're mentioning rumble and it's really rumbling. So use the sound, right? And when you do that, even for the kindergarten class, you bring them back to the class because they need to hear something. So when we talk for a little while, we need to do something else to get them active or to grab back the attention or to keep the attention. The sounds, reading the Bible. So you ask somebody to read a verse. So if you have 8 persons in your class, and not for kindergarten, but for maybe youth or adult, and it's 8 verses that you're going to read, each person takes a verse. Right. For visual, you use the balloons. I bought the balloons, but I forgot the pump. But I do a little balloon craft, not much. I know how to make a rose with balloons. I also know how to make a puppy with the long balloons, right? And when I am teaching, while I'm talking to the children, and we're talking about sometimes when mommy or daddy would need to correct us in the same way God corrects us, I am making that little dog and I'm holding it up before the camera and I'm squeezing the balloon and twisting it and I'm turning it. And I'm saying to them while I'm doing it, you know, sometimes mommy scold us and we don't feel so good because we feel like we squeeze and we feel a little hurt. And sometimes God corrects us and we feel like the squeeze and we feel a little hurt. And while I'm doing that, I am turning the balloon. And I'm saying, but guess what? God is molding us. And guess what? When he molds us, look at this. And before they know it, I've formed that long balloon that has no shape or void. I've shaped it nicely into a puppy. And when I hold it up, I said, what do I get? And they say, a puppy, miss. And I said, yes. God carves us and he molds us. But when he's finished, something beautiful. And I hold that up to them. And they realize, so guess what? For the visual learner, they're seeing the molding and the twisting and the turning. For the auditory learner, I am speaking. And for the one who loves to do, I can tell them, take a balloon to Sunday school or take 3, ask mom and daddy for 3 balloons. And we're going to make a rose today to show you how we can bloom as Christians and as children of God. So it's very important. For the youths, the activities that we will do, there are lots of activities online. And you know, the youths, they love activities. We have quizzes online. And with quizzes, that's actually a website that you go on. You can actually go ahead and set your own quiz. And you send it to them. And they will do it. So even in the Sunday school, if you're a youth teacher, you send it to them. They will just click on it and they're right there doing the quiz and answering the questions from the lesson, right? So they are being engaged in another way. You have Mentimeter. Mentimeter is also, I'm going to send all of them to Sister Rob in the interest of time. But with the Mentimeter, you go on and you can, Sunday school lesson is coming up for the adults. How can I prick their minds? You send 2 questions to them, just 2. They don't have to sign up with anything. Once they click on that link in their WhatsApp, they go to the question. And once they answer it and press submit, it comes right back to you. So you may ask, what are your views on tithing? Because that's what you're going to talk about in Sunday school. What are your views on the end of the world? Just one question. Once they answer, you get back all of the responses. And you're able now to gauge your Sunday school lesson based on the answer. Right? You also have breakout rooms. I know you probably would have used breakout rooms, right? You have the breakout rooms. You can allow the kindergarten children to draw on your screen. So I teach kindergarten, and you know for kindergarten, the lesson should not be more than, the story should not be more than, say, 3 minutes, right? It should not. And then you move on to your activity, and by 15 minutes to 20, you're wrapping up your Sunday school class, right? And I have a student who sits at the dinner table when he's having his class, and before long, you see him start with the placemat, and he starts playing with it. So you know I need to change my activity, right? And so what I do at the end of the class, I tell them, guess what? You are going to draw. So we had prayer one day, and we looked at the Lord's Prayer. And what I did at the end, I said, I want you to draw somebody praying on my screen. And they went ahead and they drew. They draw a stick man on the knees, or they draw somebody and the head gone up in the air. But guess what? While they're doing it, we cheer each other. So we say, go, Kai, go. Go. I see that head. What about the hand? Wow, you're putting on some here, man. Kai, you can really draw. You know, so you keep them engaged. And at the end, you do your memory verse and you close. And you say, look forward to next week. I told them last week, take your favorite toy to Sunday school, because we're going to talking about that, right? So they look forward to coming the next week because they know they're going to take their favorite toy. All right? So this is how you will engage them. With the youth, they love to click. They love to click. With the adults, our adults sometimes are comfortable with the traditional way. So once you have a discussion, it will go for hours. The adults are like that. But you know your learners, right? And they're fine with that because they used to Bible study. They're already cultured that way. So even though they're online, they don't mind just a regular discussion, right? But you prick their minds. Send them a message in the week. Looking forward to Sunday school. I'm preparing. And you know, I want you to answer this question. What do you think about the Holy Spirit? Just send me one word to describe the Holy Spirit. And guess what? They send it. They want to be online on Sunday to hear about it. So those are creative ways, right? Use their own. Ask the children to take their own toys. You ask them to read the Bible verse, right? There are others too where you can actually have them guess words, and you can set that up. That's categories. That's another one. I have the links, and with categories, you can actually put in your own Bible words. And then also we're going to start off the class by using the letter P. And then the categories, what it will do. Let me see if I can project it. I don't know if I'm projecting it's from there, I think. Categories, if you can put that in the web address for me, please, and project it for those who are in here. And I'll just look at it quickly. But what it does, it allows you to be able to put in your own little hints. So when you are dealing with walking on the water, right, or a miracle, you're talking about Peter, you may put it as the man who walked on the water, right? And then you may put another hint. The man who, in the boat, he fell asleep. And that would, or something else that comes with P, Palestine, or another P. So we're looking at just P words. So when we do that, it helps them to actually be able to connect. Now that one that's up, it's okay for you to read it. That one is a way to reflect on the lesson. And you can do this for adults and youth. It's rose, thorn, and bud. I use this. So you just send it in the WhatsApp group. The rose is, what did you enjoy about Sunday school last week at the lesson? The thorn is, what you still don't understand. All right, and that's the thorn. And the bud, how has it changed you? How are you blooming as a result of the lesson? So it helps you to interact with them. They can do it even while they're on, and they could go ahead and share with you, and they send it back to you. So these are some ways. And you know what? Just as I'm talking to you, the time just fly. And before you know it, you're creative for an hour, and you don't even realize. Because by the time you start and you engage them, the hour is finished. And guess what? Sunday school was taught, right? The lesson was taught. So it helps. We also have Scribble. That's another one. And I'm going to send it. You go in also, and the little ones can draw, and persons can guess. So you're going to do the lesson. And I'm going back to the fish and bread lesson. You do the lesson, and then you're going to ask somebody to draw one item from the lesson, and everybody else in the class will guess. So it engages the students. That's being creative. So I'm going to send them, I'm going to share them, so you could ask the tech person to show you some of these. And I'm sure in addition to that, they will show you, how to use the Zoom and maneuver the Zoom. All right, so moving right along. I'm almost through. Attendance and participation helps to measure effectiveness. So we're talking about teaching Sunday school effectively and creatively. So creatively is the strategies that we use effectively with God, matching the needs of the students and the learning styles of the students. So one thing I do in order to use attendance and participation to measure my effectiveness or the effectiveness of our Sunday school at Bonham Street, just sharing with you, you might have other ways too. You visit, right? You get feedback, and then that helps you to measure how effective you are. So we really have to review each time because things and times change. So what I do, I can share that also with you. I have a register online, and the register is online. So when we mark the register, if a child is absent more than they're present, it gives us a prompt to call. So once the register is marked, we know that right away we see call pops up, and we say, okay, we need to call the student this week because it prompts us to call. So it's on Google, it's Google Drive. So all of the Sunday school teachers share that one file. So every Sunday school class goes in, the teacher goes in and mark the register right there. Adults, youths, primary, all the classes. And then as superintendents and leaders now, we go in during the week and we see who we should call, and we call them. And when we call them, we make a note. Why are you not joining? Any challenges? Miss, I didn't have any credit that week. I said, okay, right, we still want you to share. We're going to send you the WhatsApp lesson, right? Or, Miss, I don't have any Wi-Fi where I am, or I don't have any device. All right, guess what? We're going to drop off the lesson. So we do a print and we drop it off for them. Might not be able to do it every week, but if we can do it for a month and cover 2 lessons and ask them to respond, take a picture, send it to us, or we pick it back up, but we are in touch. That's reaching effectively. All right, so I'm going to also share a copy of the register. If you think it's useful, then you can always work with it. All right, there may be other things that you have to. I want you to share because we learn from each other how we can really manage during this time. So we need to pay attention to the attendance and participation. That helps us. Maybe sometimes they say, Miss, sometimes we get bored. You hear it. It's a child speaking. So how do we respond to that? We ask God, give us wisdom, Lord, how to reach that one. You understand? So we really have to measure what we want to control. We want the growth, we have to measure. Very important. Measure the effectiveness. Revise the goals. Do we have goals for Sunday school? Okay, we want to grow the Sunday school by 20%, 10%. We want to add 10 more students. Boy, you know what? The kindergarten dying. In our class, our kindergarten class is low. That's what we plan to do. We plan to go to have devotions with the basic school. We go to the clinic in the area, and we do visit the clinic, and we share a sticker that we put on their appointment cards. And the sticker says for for dedication and counseling, contact Bonham Spring Church of God. And the number of persons we were able to dedicate last year and the year after grew, because we went to the 6 weeks clinic and we handed out the stickers to this, and we put them on their appointment card so they can't lose them. Just a little thing. We measure it and make sure it can hold nicely on their appointment cards that they take to the clinic. And so when they're ready, they call us from, you know, different places, and we have seen growth. Some of them, they don't live in the area, but they call just the same. Then what we do, we take their names and the numbers, and we plan to keep in touch with them. We haven't been doing that yet, but we plan now to keep. So we have a database. We have a little Excel program, you know, where we put all the parents and the birth data and so on. So we plan to call them from the Family Life Ministry, to call them and say, oh, so your child is 1 month today. The child is 6 months. Your child is a year, almost ready for school. So we tell them about the basic school too. So you understand, so it's interconnecting. So I do the Family Life Ministry too. So once they're finished with we do the pre-dedication counseling also. Once we're finished with that, the Family Life takes it up from there to keep in touch with the parents. And so we hand over to different ministries to do different things. Parents come to church with a child, pastor will say, Sunday school superintendent, meet the parents after church. We have persons who come to Sunday school because of that. I know you may be doing other things, but I'm just, you know, looking at the creative ways that we're going to bring in the children, so that we have a constant flow of people coming in to hear the gospel and to become children of God. Now, that is the aim. We need the children to be saved. That is the ultimate goal of the church. So we look at our pre-COVID figures. What were they? What was the registration pre-COVID? What was the attendance? What is it now? So we find the missing ones and we connect with them. And I understand you have a very good program. We get very good suggestions from Sister Desreen, and we're really happy for that. And we encourage you to continue, right? And we share notes. We share notes because we want to always grow together. And in addition to that, we revise our approaches. So if we do one thing, sometimes you may feel a little down, but don't stop there. Try another thing. Ask our superintendent, Sister Robbie, to go ahead and to see what else can be done. Is there any other idea? Ask the person who helps with the projection. Do you know any games online that you think I can use? I mean, when I went on and I looked at church games, holy. And I'll also look at some of the secular ones, meaning they don't really talk about church. We see where we can adjust them for the gospel too. All right, so they are there. The teacher is the last place for us, and I'll do that in the next 5 minutes. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way. So we always would need to assess ourselves. How am I ready for this online thing? Am I really coping? Do I need the technique? Do I need to be more familiar with the platform? Do I need to be more familiar with the things that can be done online? And that's why preparation is key, because we practice it, you know, if we have children in the home, practice with them and you send something to them and say, you see it? When you click on it, do you see anything come up? Because you want to make sure that it works before you take it to your Sunday school class. The gifts God gave us were that some would be teachers, evangelists, and it goes on and on, for the building up of the body of Christ. So we realize as teachers that our ministry doesn't stop with us. We're fulfilling a call. We're fulfilling a call. Teaching is a great responsibility. It enriches, the next slide, which enriches your own growth as you lead others in their growth. Sunday school has helped me a lot as a teacher. A lot of times I come under the microscope of the word even before I take it to the children, because sometimes I have to confess before I go to the children. You understand? Because the word also applies to us. So we make the adjustment. The more comfortable we are with the online is the more creative and exciting we can become. All right? And so we'll start to learn new ways. And don't despair. If you think that you're teaching, but you will not be able to click all over the place, that is fine. Fine. I understand when I checked on the Sunday school here, I understand that you also have helpers. So you may need to use some of the young people on your team to just do the clicking for us. Because sometimes I have to call on my son is 10 years old. How do you do this, Stephen? I have to call on him. So we can ask young people to be an assistant in that way. So say, okay, I have this lesson. Just put me on. And the only thing you can do, you need to do, open your camera and open your mic. And you're ready to go. And then you say, okay, Sister Riona, can you now share that slide for me? And they will put, can you share the music for me now? Everybody sings. Can you put up that little game for me now? And that person will do the game for you. So if you need the help to do it, the help will come. I'm sure the provision will be made so that the Sunday school will continue to be effective and will continue to be efficient, not just doing the right thing, but doing the thing right. Preaching the gospel is the right thing, and there's no question to that. But also doing it right is important for us as we go along. All right, so that's the end of it. And we have been interacting. If you have any questions, I give you just 5 minutes for questions and I will answer them. Any clarifications you need, whether you're on the Zoom meeting or you're in the chapel, I will do that and then I'll hand right back over to Sister Robinson. Sister Robinson, stand by. I won't be long. Yes, please come. Yes. Okay. For me, I the kindergarten. And what I do, like, for like, that is the way, and I will teach it. Also, if we in the member verse, if you all of value a same language, so she first. Very good. So, part of that, my English teaching junior, primary, or so what I am trying to concentrate on the love of the Christ. That's what I'm trying to get. Yes. Teaching them about the love of God. Therefore, you would what different yes. Of them understand Jesus. Very good. And they will get it. Very good point. And thank you for that. The language. So knowing them, then you will know what language to use. And like I said, I teach the kindergarten also. I normally look at videos online. And videos, I use a 2 minutes to 3 minutes video, thereabout. It doesn't go over 4 minutes. Right? And I use the cartoon ones because you have quite a bit. Ministrytochildren.com has a lot that's a website for children, and it has a lot of resources. And when I'm teaching, we're talking about the lady who washed Jesus here with her feet. And I went for what is this? I went for my perfume. I said, what could I get? And I went in my room and I took it up. And I said, what do I have in my hand? I said, Miss Perfume. And I said, you know what? It smells so nice. And I sprayed, right? And I use this to help them to understand that lesson. I was talking about Jesus eating at the house of Simon, right? And I had some food. And I shared the food and I brought it. And on my Zoom, I was saying, guess what, class? I'm having food. Have you ever gone to anybody's house to eat? Yes, miss, auntie and uncle and so on. And I'm trying to, I say, okay, I'm eating now. That's what Jesus did. He went somewhere and he ate. You know, so I used that to sort of bring it out. The balloons, like I said, you can take a balloon and you can use the balloon. You can write, you can go ahead and you can write words on the balloon. We're talking about love today. All right. Did you take your balloon? Well, I have my balloon. You take out your balloon, Chloe. And I want you to draw a heart on your balloon. And I draw a heart on mine. What does the heart represent? The love. We're talking about the love of God. And before you start and you tell them, yes, miss, and so and so and so, you find out that you concentrate on the lesson and it's finished in 20 minutes. All right? That can also work. You can ask them to go outside. If they have Wi-Fi and it doesn't affect outside, let them sit on that tree for Sunday school this time. And the breeze blowing, and you're talking about Jesus, the teaching on the mount, and say, oh my God, the breeze must have been blowing just like how it's blowing through my hair now. And you relate it to their surrounding. So it helps also. So like you said, that's true. We use the bridges. And when it talks about the Lord's Prayer, I couldn't do all of it. I just had to do a part of the Lord's Prayer, and then I taught them how to pray their own way, because I know they would not have gotten it. But by 20 minutes, I'm out of my Sunday school class. I don't keep them for more than 20 minutes, the kindergarten. And I said, look forward to next week. Guess what we're going to be looking at? Do you see this? We're going to be talking about this. Make sure you're there next week, right? That sort of thing. Take something, put on a hat. We want to have a funny hat Sunday school. Put on the hat just to get them coming on, right? So I try to use that. Like I said, it's very important for the children. You can have your chart. You can put it on your chest, tape it on. They're seeing you on Zoom, and you can draw on it. Do you see my L? Where's my L? It's on the paper, miss, and it is on your chest. That sort of thing. So you engage them that way. All right, and before you know it, you are teaching your lesson, right? And they are able to see. If you have a whiteboard, or if you have cartridge paper, you can also stand and have the Zoom focus on you. So you just focus your camera and you stand, put your cartridge paper on a wall, and you can teach that way too. What do you see on my charts? You can teach that way too. All right, so there are different ways, but I thank you for that. The language is important depending on who is being taught. What 1 minute? Let me hear from her, share her hand up, and then I come to you. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. The child is slow, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Right. Okay. Okay. Because okay. Okay, well, all right. So thank you very much for that question, because we will have persons who, we learn at different pace. We do, right? We do learn at different pace. But accommodating, is very important, right? Because we could look at maybe different. There are many different approaches to it. We could look at approach it from the standpoint of the parents. You could talk with the parents, tell the parents what you have noticed and how you're working to help them. We could also look at discussing it with the child. Guess what? Even though the others may be moving on, if the person depends on the age, because sometimes they're not as advanced because of the age. So it depends on the reason. All right. And then, like I said, it has to be needs based. It has to be needs based. And knowing the formal education system, you may have instances where persons are adjusted accordingly. In the Sunday school setting, we have a little bit more liberty. We don't have to follow anything strict, right? But we always would need to do our assessment and to see what actions we are taking and how the children are responding to the actions that are taken. That's very important. That's key when making the decision. Because in everything that we do, we have to start with the learner, because they are the ones we target. All right, they're the ones we target. So we would look at their needs, do the assessment. When we do the assessment, then we would go ahead and we would cater. We can talk with the parents, like I said, have a discussion with the Sunday school superintendent, talk with the child also, right? And then we make our decision on that basis. All right, but the learner is the focus. Learner is the focus. And effective sometimes is not what maybe, we would probably sometimes want to look at, but what the child will really respond to at the end of the day. So it's a discussion that you would have, and in your own wisdom, with God leading, with the different stakeholders, the parents, maybe, that sort of thing. Then you will, but we always start with the need of the learner. All right, we're going to say something. Go ahead. No, on the ark, yes. Right, right. Very good. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. What is the cat saying? That's it. Yes. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. They express themselves. That's so good, based on their understanding. Wonderful. Now, very good note to end on. The most important thing is the gospel. And the students, we have to focus on them. And when I did my research, the resounding thing in all the researches, preach the gospel. Do not do as much as possible, do otherwise. When it's a Sunday school lesson, don't end without asking them. Anybody wants to give your heart to the Lord. When I was doing New Believers class at church, I would announce it in the Sunday school class book. If anybody indicates or you see any expression on anybody's face which makes them look like they want to accept the Lord, refer them so the New Believers class can take them from there. So with the Sunday school refers to new believers. The youth fellowship refers to new believers, and that's how we build them and teach them the word so they accept the Lord. As you say, tell them as it is. The youths, they want to hear it. And we are encouraged to tell them as it is. Don't dilute the gospel. The method may change, but the gospel in its truest and realest form is most effective. God bless you. Oh, you wanted to say something? Even though I teach us get the word in every Sunday, so I use like a time section. What is going on? Right. That's it. Right. And I love that, Sister Chloe. So let us not assume their needs. And that is why we need to ask God to help us to find ways to discover their needs. Because we can plan a good program and nothing comes of it. And that's why in order to be effective, we have to know their learning style and we have to know their needs. Sometimes we're talking to them and the belly growling. You understand? So we ask God for the wisdom. And that's why we start with God at the top. And He will give us the wisdom. And like I said, don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask assistance if you're not able to do it as fast. Sometimes I do ask for assistance, right? And I'm sure you will get it. God bless you for the viewers on Zoom. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're not through wrapping up. Sister Robbins will be coming now to do the wrap up. Okay, Sister Clunis will be coming, but I thank you so much for lending me your ears. And it was my delight. And I've learned a lot from you. Sister Denise? Sister Desiree, sorry. Right. Send me the suggestions because we too need to learn from you. You have been doing it and I have been using some of them. With God, we can do it. We will come out on the right side of the pandemic because we have the solution for the world. Our God, He was prepared. He knew it was coming. That's the one that we're introducing to our children and our students in this time to let them know that there is hope and hope is found in the Word of God. God bless you. God bless you. Hallelujah. God bless you.
Just can I give her a round of applause? We could just sit and just listen more and we just want to give God thanks for Auntie Susan and for her sharing intensely about what she believes. Just give her another round of applause. And you know something, let me share something. She's supposed to be on the line, but she decided that she wants to come and see us. So just stop her. She's coming all the way from St. Anne's. She wants to look at us and speak to us. It would not have been so effective if she was online. So, brethren, we are going to do that part now where our belly is rolling. It's lunchtime, Sister Desiree. So I just asked Sister Susan to just listen to first, please. Amen. Amen. Remember, COVID is still in session, so we do the proper thing. Let us all go fellowship and eat despite COVID. Or you want to take them?
So let me tell them. Okay, God bless you, online viewers. I'm going to be closing down now, but the session will continue after this. God bless you. Yes. Thank you. And I'm going to be heading out now because I need to catch the bus. Yes.